Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to this week's preview show of Season 1 of 2019, Week 2. We kick things off with the Camping World Truck Series, or NASCAR iRacing Class C Open, and we are at Darlington Speedway, driving the number 2 Toyota Tundra, as usual. This past week, we had a good race, had a solid finish, quite happy with the way Week 1 went out. Don't have a whole lot of high hopes for Week 2. Darlington is not a track that I have a whole lot of experience with. I think I've done 1 or 2 races and just not have a good feel for the truck, especially back then when Darlington is known for running the high line so much. So we'll see how this plays out. Probably will only run it once. There's a number of other races I want to focus on this week. So we'll get our one race in and then head on to the next one. But we've got 100 laps. Depending upon where we sit in the split will really dictate on how I qualify and where how much I push it. So we'll see how things turn out, but this is Darlington and it's Week 1. See what we can do. Next we have the Xfinity Series here at Five Flags Speedway, a very short track. I don't think I had the wheel straight at any time on this one, but we've got 160 laps here in the Class B, driving the Ford Mustang as usual, and this is about as short as you're going to get. This track is, like I said, you're turning pretty much the whole time. As soon as you get out to midpoint, you're hitting the brakes, and that nose is just slamming down. Again, short tracks and I have a very mixed bag about it. We'll see how this one plays out, but I don't have a whole lot of high hopes for it, but we'll see what we can do with it. Again, Five Flags Speedway, we've got 160 laps for this particular event, and we'll see what we can do. Very short track. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cautions. And again, between this and Darlington, probably going to run these both once. When you see what the bonus track is and some of the other races I have planned, this will probably be mostly a road course weekend. So next, we kick off our road courses with the VRS Sprint Series, driving the AMG Mercedes GT3, driving the number 2, 2 Ultra Forza. We are at Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Roval, one of the new tracks that we just picked up this past week, the start of this season. As you can see, these are some of my first few laps that I've turned in this car. As you can see, I don't even have a track map yet, but this is a fun track. It's a little demanding. There's a couple key areas. The bus stop is going to probably see a lot of carnage, as you'll see as we're coming up to it on my opening lap here. It's extremely bumpy. If you hit the blue curbing, it will really destroy your front valance. And during the week 13 stuff, there was a lot of videos of people just crashing there. So our goal is to get through there as quickly as possible. You do not want to go in through that too wide. You will lose a ton of time, and if there's anybody behind you, they'll be able to just slingshot you past on that. So you're going to want to get single file through that one. Turn 1 right here, it's pretty straightforward. It's a little bit more deceiving. You have a lot more runoff than you think. You're going to want to set up for this next set of corners are pretty quick. You can use a lot of the track on the runoff, especially through here. All that pavement is open game, no penalties at all. Quick trailing corner, and this corner right here is very deceiving. You're going to want to get on the brakes because you do crest right there, and you're going to want to get slowed down. Cut this corner as hard as you can to get back up on the speedway, and then just carry as much speed as you can as you're coming up to the bus stop. We will be downshifting, at least in this practice. I was just downshifting once, and as you can see here, just really avoid those blue curbs. Those things will just destroy your car, and your race will be over with. As far as this last chicane, you're going to want to get on the brakes early, and again, avoid the blue curbing as much as possible. But that's 2 laps here at the Roval, brand new track, so we'll see how we can do. Next, we have the Fanatec Global Challenge, and this week we are at Watkins Glen with the boot, driving the Tool Forza Cadillac, just like we did this past week at Lime Rock. Only I hope I have a much better result this week. Lime Rock was an absolute disaster for me. Just could not get this car through that course for some reason. I don't even remember how I finished on it, but it was not a good race. Kept the car clean, didn't have any contact, but just was not happy with my performance. So looking to turn it around at a track I'm very comfortable with at Watkins Glen, one of my more favorite tracks that we race at. So we'll see what we can do in the Cadillac. Again, this thing is big and heavy and understeers quite a bit. So the key for me is just get on the brakes early, get the car set up, and then really power out of it. So slow in, fast out is the rule for this one. We did have a good turnout, though. We did have 3 splits. I think there was 60 some odd cars that had signed up for it when we raced it earlier today. So looking to have a good turnout again this week. The one thing that I noticed with the Cadillacs is the brake lights are not showing up for some reason. I'm not sure if that's a glitch with the game or what's going on, but for some reason the Cadillacs do not have any rear brake lights. The Optimas do, but the Cadillacs do not, which is not really a good thing, especially considering this is a D-class race. So we'll see what we can do to survive it. Again, this will be a 25-minute race, so not very long, and it's pretty straightforward. And we'll hopefully look to get a better finish than we did this past week at Lime Rock. So I'll see what we can do with the Cadillac here at Watkins Glen. And finally, our last major series that we will be competing in for this season every week is the IMSA Sportscar Championship. Last week we were at Imola. This week we are at Road Atlanta, and again driving the Ferrari 488 GTE. This race is, again, a 45-minute race, so there is pit stops. It is multi-class. We'll be running with GT3s. We had a large field. If I remember correctly, we had 37, 38 cars in the race at Imola, so looking forward to having another large field. The bad news is this version of Road Atlanta is a little bit tricky for me. Mainly just at the top of the hill at Turn 2, the Turn 2 complex, and coming down through the S's. It is very blind in iRacing compared to Forza and even Assetto Corsa on the one track that we had. The height elevation is really blind, and so it's going to take me a little while to get used to that Turn 1. I've done a few laps here, and I think I did another race. I forgot which car it was, but I have done a race here. It might have been in the Global Mazdas. But Road Atlanta is a track I obviously have got a lot of time with in Forza. This part's pretty well flat out here in the GTE. No big dramas there. Turn 1 is pretty straightforward, but like I said, coming up this hill, and this complex is just completely different than what I'm used to in Forza. I'm either cutting it, braking really early, or just blowing the corner all the way through the very end and coming down through these S's. The braking point right there, it's going to be a little challenge to make sure I don't lock up the tires. I am going to put a little bit more rear brake bias in the car this week and just keep from abusing that left front. But other than that, the rest of Road Atlanta is pretty straightforward. Again, our goal this season is to finish ahead of the GT3s. This week will be a challenge for me, just because I struggle at this track a little bit. But we do have the legs on the GT3, so as long as I can keep it clean and keep it out of trouble, I shouldn't have any problems staying in front. And hopefully we can get another top 10 finish, although that was a very fortunate that a couple cars last week ran out of gas and had to dive into the pits. But that's racing, especially in iRacing. You got to calculate your fuel mileage correctly. So, but again, 45-minute race here at Road Atlanta in the Ferrari. So, looking forward to it. Finally, for our bonus race, we are at none other than Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Monster Energy Cup. I'm driving the number 2 Chevy Camaro ZL1 for a 64 laps of Class A open racing, and this will be the race that I run several times. I absolutely love this combination. Indianapolis has always been a fun track for me. I've had some pretty decent finishes here, and it's usually a pretty fun race. With 64 laps, it's just long enough to where you'll want to keep your tires under control. Not too many cautions from what I can remember in previous races, so hopefully we'll get a nice long green run or two, but this is a track that I will enjoy, as opposed to the Darlington and the Five Flags for the other two races. Those I'll probably just run one time and one time only, regardless of how I finish. But this will see the majority of my racing time this week. Turn 1 and 2, pretty straightforward. Don't have a whole lot of issues with it from previous races, other than just making sure that you get a good exit off of turn 2. You don't want to go high into this corner because it'll just lose a whole bunch of speed on corner exit. However, turn 3 for me in the past has been a problem corner for me. I really need to be conscious and back the entry up into this one and not go into it too hot. The problem with that is you miss that apex right there, and you're really hard getting onto the speed, and you do wash up right into that wall. Turn 4 is pretty straightforward getting into it, but you'll want to be mindful of throttle on exit, especially towards the later part of the run when the tires get warm. But should be a pretty straightforward race. Looking forward to it. Again, we'll be running it a couple times. And that will conclude this week's preview show. Again, we should have a good turnout, and we'll see what we can do. Thanks again for coming out. And if you're new to the channel, please consider giving us a like and subscribe. Have a good night, everybody.